Sorry.
Take up 9.2 status reports, updates of response and recovery efforts from OES assisting agencies and/or community groups consequent to 2015 wildland fires. Carol, please come on up. Joe Moss, I'm going to ask that you have the conversation outside, please, and other people. Appreciate it. We have a meeting to conduct.
Hi. Good morning. I'm Carol
Morning, Carol.
Huchingson, the recovery coordinator, and you know, when it's been 2 weeks since I've seen you, a lot has happened in the world of recovery, so I was trying to figure out where to start without taking up too much time. So I'm just going to touch on some of the
Take whatever
highlights.
time you need.
First of all, MHUs, the manufactured home units that FEMA is bringing in. Just a few notes. There are 12 total families in those now, 7 of whom are renters and 5 are owners. So the 5 of owners are on private property. The 7 are in existing RV parks and mobile home parks. Lake Village Estates in Clear Lake Oaks, they're prepping 13 pads over there. At Lake Village Estates, there are no children in the families that can go in there, and the families have to have at least one adult that is over 55. Clear Lake Resort in Clear Lake is the next site where they are prepping space for up to 40 of the MHUs. And new on the list is Edgewater Resort. They're prepping 10 sites there as well. At Lake Village Estates, they're just virtually ready, almost ready. Some ready already, in fact. Clear Lake Resort, the timeline is mid-January, and Edgewater is newer to the discussion, probably late January.
How many in Edgewater?
10.
10.
Up to 10. And so at this time, development of a group site for manufactured home units is no longer on the table. And the reason for that is that the number of people needing them ebbs and flows all the time. But the bottom line is, it doesn't appear that there's going to be a need for more than what can be accommodated in those numbers. Originally, earlier on in the disaster, a total of 161 families indicated a need. That consisted of 68 owners and 93 renters. But the numbers have dwindled tremendously, with people making other arrangements, finding rental resources. In fact, FEMA reports that they have assisted about 200 families in finding existing rental housing. And so, long story short, it boils down to about 40 families that appear to have the need for these MHUs at those sites that I described. As a result of all of that, the sheltering operation is winding down. There are still 120 or so folks at Canocti, but at this time they are either paying privately with rental assistance funds that they have received from FEMA, or they are receiving the FEMA temporary sheltering assistance while they await a manufactured home unit. Hidden Valley Lake Campground still has a few people there, although they supposedly closed on the 7th. They've allowed some people to stick around a little longer. Apparently they needed a little more time to make other arrangements. In terms of storm preparations, our Public Works Department has been super busy getting us ready for winter storms, and it's a good thing that so far the rainstorms have been spaced out so that we haven't run into a problem thus far. What Public Works has been doing is working with CAL FIRE and others to remove debris and obstructions for creek channels. They've completed a project that was funded with National Resource Conservation District to provide sandbags and temporary walls to help protect residences from debris, potential debris flows. They're called mussel walls. They work with CAL FIRE to stock sandbags at fire stations in Middletown and Hidden Valley, and there are some still available. They continue to monitor drainage facilities, culverts, bridges, all of those things for obstructions. In fact, during rain events, they have crews out patrolling around to make sure things are flowing okay. And recently, both Sonoma County and Mendocino County road departments loaned us staff to help with ditch cleaning on several roads throughout the county, so we're very appreciative to those counties. Community Development now has the Permit Center open in the Burn area. It's at the Middletown Senior Center, 8:30 to 11:30. There have been a few bumps in the road in terms of getting it open, in terms of connectivity and such, but it is operational now. Because of staffing shortages, it is only mornings because the staff need time to drive back here and do their jobs here in the afternoon. We also had a meeting over the last couple weeks regarding permit fees. There had been some interest in possibly waiving permit fees, but for those that want to rebuild. But most of those that intend to rebuild are insured, and insurance typically pays for the cost of permits in the rebuild. And so for those that aren't insured and don't have resources to pay their permit fees, we explored an alternative. And Rob, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, what we're going to ask, we're working with the Lake County Rotary Group and Lake County Rising, and potentially some money from Calpine as well, to put in a fund where we can give an invoice from the county for the county share that we need. We won't qualify for reimbursement if we just waive them. We have to charge the percentage. We can get that invoice, and then they can take it to one of those nonprofit groups, and then they will put that money, pay that to the county directly from those funds.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on with them right now.
Yeah, our hope is to enable everybody to rebuild, and so we don't want to create a hindrance to those folks that aren't insured, but at the same time, since insurance companies pay for this, there is no basis really upon which to waive.
Yeah, and I want to add, I'll be bringing something back to the board probably in January on this, because what we want to do is set an end date on this to try to encourage people to get the permits as quickly as possible. You know, obviously 7 years from now, it's not going to be expected that we can continue to do this because the money just won't be there, but we can do it for the year or whatever. So.
The Debris Removal Operations Center is really in gear with over 50 crews. They're averaging 20 lots cleaned per day, and the total number done is now over 600. So that's moving along very well. Many of our branches that are working in recovery are in need of additional staffing, and we're working with a local one-stop with hope that they can place some staff, both with auditor, with community development, permit technicians, and even with environmental health for similar functions that need to be done over the next couple of years. I'm working on a plan also to survey everyone affected by the disaster. It's very difficult to know what's become of people that aren't being aided by FEMA. The rest of the world is kind of lost to us, and you probably saw the misquote of Supervisor Brown in the newspaper recently. He had made the comment about 5,000 to 6,000 people being displaced. It got misconstrued to say that they're floating all over the place and we don't know where they are. But the truth is, if you're not in the FEMA system, it's pretty hard to know what's become of you. So I'm working on a concept to do a survey right after the first of the year, and FEMA and Cal OES have indicated a willingness to give me the information I need to be able to contact people. What we're hoping to get is the cell phone numbers that people used when they registered for FEMA, so that we can make a call-out survey. Because we need to know, as we rebuild South Lake County, what are people's long-term plans? Are they coming back into our community? Are they going to be supporting local business? Have they made decisions not to come back? There's a whole lot hinging upon the decisions these folks are making, so I look forward to checking in with them. Let's see. There are a number of FEMA events in the planning, and in addition to the Recovery Task Force and all of what's going on locally, FEMA intends to hold a housing summit and also a hazard mitigation open house, both in the months of January. We're trying to get a sense of exactly what is hoped to be accomplished at those two events and making some suggestions about possibly tying them to other events that the county is holding. More to report on that soon. The undersheriff, I know, has been round and around in his efforts to try to get the cell phone towers, the portable cell phone towers that are in place now, trying to get those retained here as we enter the rainy season and may have need to communicate with folks on the mountain and in some of the areas that coverage would be sketchy if those cell phone towers are removed. He's been round and around trying to secure funding, and I know it's been a very frustrating process. So he is shifting gears now and working on a proposal to seek funding for a large number of NOAA radios, weather radios, that could be provided to people in those areas where cell coverage is poor, to ensure that we have a way of notifying folks in the event flooding is going to become a problem. So I think you'll hear more about that soon as well. And last but not least, the task force is continuing to meet. Our last meeting of 2015 is tonight at 6 p.m. at Black Rock Golf Course. And then we reconvene in 2016 on January 5th at the Twin Pine Casino Event Center.
Thank you, Carol, for the update. And Supervisor Comstock?
Thank you. Carol, with the decision that there will be no group site and Edgewater developing the one in Clear Lake, with those families that are going to be in those areas, is there going to be the continued busing of kids to the Middletown schools?
As far as I know, the schools do intend to continue busing. I haven't heard any timeline for when that would be cut off. But it's certainly a good question that we need to follow up with the superintendent of schools. As you know, the Edgewater Resort is pretty close to Canocti Harbor
Right.
Resort, and so they've already become accustomed to busing the kids from there. So hopefully they will just make the round.
Any other questions or comments?